Golden Spiral Media presents The Blacklist Exposed.
Hello, special agents. You have come to the right place. Welcome to The Blacklist Exposed. I am Agent Troy Heinrichs. We are here with a special edition of The Blacklist Exposed with our Season 1 special archive episodes. The following episode appeared on the TV Talk Network for Season 1 of The Blacklist, and we're bringing it to you here on The Blacklist Exposed, remastered and used with permission from TV Talk. We hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy this special episode from Season 1.
You're tuned in to TV Talk, The Blacklist. Welcome to TV Talk, America's #1 TV talk show network. And now it's time for TV Talk, The Blacklist.
Well, you will all enjoy this episode tonight, or die trying, because that's how blackmail works, sweethearts. Welcome to TV Talk, The Blacklist. I'm Troy.
And I'm Dave, here to discuss number 8 on The Blacklist, Berlin, airing May 5th, 2014. Before we begin tonight, you should all know that Troy and I have been getting great rewards just for watching our favorite TV shows like The Blacklist, and then listening to all the great music that is featured on The Blacklist. But these rewards aren't just for Troy and I. You can also get in on these awesome rewards by going to Viggle.com/TV Talk and downloading the free Viggle app.
Using Viggle allows Dave and I to check into The Blacklist or any TV show we watch live, as well as listening to great songs. It also allows us to earn Viggle points that can be redeemed for actual stuff like music and movie downloads, gift cards, electronics, and even more. And because you are all loyal TV Talk, The Blacklist listeners, you get a special offer. But you gotta go to Viggle.com/TV Talk to learn about this great offer and to download the free Viggle app today. Well, we had germ warfare going on a couple weeks ago, Dave, and I was really shocked that there might have been some kind of crossover coming into this week. Do you think that the sickness we saw at the beginning of the episode had any bearing on our germ warfare from a few weeks ago?
It could. That seems to be kind of it keeps coming up. I mean, germ warfare is some scary stuff. It really, truly is. And I think they really brought that along well in this opening we had this week, because you just had no idea what was happening to this poor guy.
Well, it's springtime here in the U.S., so allergies might as well just be a biological weapon for all I'm concerned.
I'll tell you, that was one mean allergy if that's what that guy had, I'll tell you.
Well, it was really great to see that he was actually, a normal guy. I think that's one of the cool things that we've seen about our victims, if you want to call it a cool thing. But these are just, ordinary people that seem to be, in dire circumstances. We had the people that were abusing the children in the one episode, and then we had these guys here. We had the senator last week who just had a simple family, and I think this is the really cool thing about The Blacklist is that they're just using general, ordinary people to carry out these missions. It doesn't all have to be super spies or army guys or terrorists or anything like that. It's just a real simple operation to wreak massive havoc.
Yeah, and it worked really for me, for whatever reason. On this one, it worked really well, especially a little later in this opening scene when the security guard finally collapses and they have to quarantine the whole bank. And I mean, people are just panic stricken, and it was just like, oh my gosh, what is going on? What is happening? I mean,
and even the poor security guard that's at the bank, he was almost kind of scared to actually pull out his weapon and kind of hold the people at bay because he didn't want to have to fire at anybody. But it looked like it might come down to that.
Yeah, because you just don't know what you're up against. I mean, there's no way of knowing what it's all about. But as it turns out, it wasn't a concern, because this time around, this particular virus was only meant to affect just the person that it killed. We learn as we progress here.
Well, the other great thing is that they kind of run down all of the people that were connected inside of the web of Berlin, if you will, on Lizzie's, tack board there, if you will, her case board. And it was really interesting to find out that Gina Xanatakos has escaped.
Yeah, and it was just kind of dropped out there. There really wasn't much else mentioned about it. That's got to come back and haunt us at some point, wouldn't you think?
I would think so, because, I mean, she was a pretty brutal person, if we remember correctly from her episode as it was. I mean, she's a trained assassin. So to have her be back out in the playing field, that's something that we got to keep our eye on, even though, you know, we still know that Red planted the box in Tom's apartment, which Gina had the same type of box. So the real question is was Gina working for Berlin, or was Gina just getting framed by Red in order to drive Lizzie to the truth?
Yeah, because we got two different people with two different end games, and we don't know who's really at this point who's working for whom, or how it's all going to work out. A lot of surprises yet to come. I know we only got one episode left to go, but I think it's going to be a real blockbuster. This one was a real blockbuster, so I can't even imagine what next week's going to bring.
I know. And the best part about it is that we got to see Tom, even though Tom's been kind of off the beaten path, and he's basically doing his own beaten path, taking out Red's tailors, if you will, not the actual suit guys that make Red suits, tailors, but the people that tail the people that he's following around. And the one line that I really loved, because I'm a Scandal fan as well, and in Scandal, they actually have a guy whose name is Command. It's basically the one guy who kind of runs the country that basically protects the president from himself. Like, he is God, if you will, for the Union. And you say basically, that you don't choose command chooses you. So when I heard that line tonight coming from Tom, where he said, you don't choose Berlin chooses you, my juices started flowing, because I was like, maybe it is U.S. government based, because it sounded very much like command, and maybe Berlin really is a good guy at the end of the day.
That would be a really interesting twist, wouldn't it?
I would think so, because what we found out is that Red was formerly U.S., went to Naval Academy with Harold and everything. And then, of course, we're moving up in the world, and he's becoming a bad guy. Now he's back on U.S. soil. We have this group of Illuminati, the 12, whatever you want to call them, from last week with Mr. Finch and company. Yes, I said his name wrong because I was thinking of Scandal last week, so I apologize for saying Fitz, because that's the wrong TV show. Mr. Finch and company. And because of that, you don't know who's really the good guys in this whole scenario. So I hope that we get at least who's bad and who's good in the finale next week, as we kind of wait out for season 2 next fall.
Yes, but Red is he's very ominous. He swears that there is basically a biological army coming, with pretty much the sole purpose being to kill him. I believe the line is, "This is someone who doesn't care how many people has to die, as long as I am one of them."
And what's a really interesting sequence of events as they're standing there, and Red's, talking to Ressler and Harold and Lizzie and Marin, and they're basically just standing there. It felt a lot like Ansel Garrick all of a sudden again.
Yeah, it did.
And you're waiting for Berlin maybe to breach the post office one more time.
Not again. Although I have a feeling that something similar is coming. I think the whole complex, or the whole family of people, are about to come under fire.
The one thing that I really love tonight is kind of this. Red always has this interesting people, whether they're plastic surgeons or they're people that like to get lit on fire with vodka, smoking a cigar, the swimmer from last week. In this week, we actually go to a mental institution to find the doctor guy who can tell us all about this virus.
Yeah, Dr. Sanders, and he's more than a little goofy, isn't he? But brilliant at the same time.
This isn't the guy that invented chicken, right? Is this a different kind of Sanders?
This is Colonel Sanders. This is Dr. Sanders.
Dr. Sanders, okay. Dr. Bruce Sanders. And, of course, the first thing I noticed right away is, oh, hey, look, it's Lionel Luthor from Smallville. And I loved Smallville, and I loved him in his acting. And he did a really great job tonight, because he's recanting the last time that Red and them are together. And he talks about this, space agent movie. And because of that, I thought he was talking about a droid at first. And I thought maybe, we had him talking about UD-4621, I believe it was. And then, of course, Berlin had the cloak over his head. And I'm like, hey, May the 4th was yesterday. Star Wars Day is over. Let's move along, people.
But he is very great in this role. I loved him in this. Dr. Sanders was a great character. And he just, you could tell he was highly intelligent, but also very, very insane.
Yeah, how often do you actually identify people by their badge IDs, especially when they're printed so small that you'd be able to figure it out. And again, I love our, typical Blacklist easy reveal. Liz is just standing there and goes, hey, maybe it's a badge number.
Yeah, she just kind of puts two and two together real quick, though. And again, that's a brilliant idea, but you're right. It's just amazing how quickly that can be put together.
But Ram is obviously the best person out of all of this because he's the one that's like, oh, yeah, I cross-reference this, I cross-reference that. And when it all comes down to it, the CDC is really behind the abbreviation of ID numbers with a UD in the front of them. So UD 4126 ends up being Nicholas Vogel is his name. So they are going after Nicholas Vogel of the CDC to find out why the heck he's poisoning people, because the poison doesn't seem to be quite what we thought it was.
No, it's been genetically engineered, I guess, for lack of a better term. I mean, this is somebody that knows their way around a virus lab, and this has been altered to a point that it can be used to control people.
Right. It was a delayed reaction, but a time ticking bomb at the same time, but not spreadable, either airborne or viral or by touch in any way, shape, or form. But more importantly, Nicholas has actually also made the cure for the most deadly disease on the planet.
Right. But, and again, I was a little confused on that. And maybe you can shed some light, Troy, because they had to continue to take the serum, correct? Because he would have a task for them, and he'd say, in 24 hours, or is it just a one-shot thing? He infected them, and they had to do something, and then he gave them the remedy.
It seemed like because there was a one shot where they were putting the cures together on the table, so it looked like it was a 3-dose cure treatment. So in that case, yeah, every 24 hours you would have to take this shot and do, the first 24 hours was, if you don't believe me and you want a chance dying, go for it. If not, take this shot within 24 hours and you'll get new instructions. And then of course, then you're going to carry out your instructions and then get another shot. And then, of course, that would make you better. Of course, there's probably one more thing, which is, okay, now go kill yourself and then take the shot to feel better.
So that's what we know. We find out that that first gentleman that we met, who I believe his name was Paul Blankenship, the first security guard, that's exactly what had happened to him. He was actually being extorted to do things that he would not have done if not for the fact that he was going to die unless he did them.
So, of course, they capture Dr. Vogel. They figure out what's all going on, and they figure out who the 5 horsemen of the apocalypse. I picked up on that right away, and I was like, did he say 5 horsemen? I thought there were 4 horsemen. He's like, no, there's 5 horsemen.
Yeah, he freaks out a little bit.
Very adamant about the 5 horsemen.
Yes, they're very, very adamant about that 5th one.
And apparently that's all part of the plan in order to break into the airport and make sure that this plane that's carrying our Jedi Master Berlin himself to land on the tarmac and then infiltrate the U.S. somehow, some way.
Right, and there's a great scene. How they find out about these 5 horsemen, if you will, is there's a great interrogation scene between Liz and Dr. Vogel. It might just be, for me, the best scene of the whole series so far, because once again we get to see tough Liz.
Yeah,
a good way of putting it.
We're saying Super Liz, right?
Yeah, Super Liz, and she's got a great line because this Dr. Vogel is just being more than a little conceited. He really thinks he's got these people where he wants them, and to kind of quote your line from the opening, that's how blackmail works, sweetheart, is the line that he gives her, correct?
Right, and then she basically turns around to him and says, "Oh, you mean this cure right here?" Yeah, so in about 24 hours, you're going to want to give me those 5 names because that's how blackmail works.
His nose is starting to bleed, so we know at that point that she's infected him with his own virus. And now, unless he gives up the 5 names, he's going to die from his own engineered virus. You got to love that.
I mean, we forget how awesome Liz is at the end of the day because, yeah, granted, she, broke Tom's finger with the pliers, a couple weeks ago. But remember, she initially stabbed a pen in Reddington's carotid artery at the beginning of this show back in the pilot. And we were all like, what? Did that just happen?
What did we just see?
So I think hell hath no fear like a woman scorned, I think still stands when it comes to Liz and what she wants to get out of this.
Exactly. But because of this, they get their 5 names, and they put all the pieces together in typical Blacklist fashion. They figure it all out that it's actually an airport that's going to be seized or attacked.
And of course, the plane's coming down. And I was worried for a minute because the pilot that was trying to land the plane, I didn't know if he was one of these 5 horsemen because I was counting them as we went through, and I only counted 4. So I think the pilot was the 5th because he seemed like he was a little sick himself.
Yeah, I agree.
So then, of course, the plane is about to touch down, and they're all, abort, abort, abort. So the plane takes off, and they go up. And, of course, now, because they deviated from the flight plan, standard stuff after 9/11, scramble the jets, we're going to take this thing out of the sky.
Right. Now, as we've been progressing through the episode, there's been this, I guess it's not even an underlying tension. It's a very open tension between Red and Liz. Liz wants nothing to do with Red anymore since this whole thing with her, with Sam. Boy, she's going out of her way to pretty much avoid him.
Yeah, she does not forgive him for killing Sam at the end of the day, but they have to work together because remember, the stipulation of this agreement for Red working with the FBI was that Red only talks to Liz, and as long as Liz is working with Red, then Red has his immunity. But if Liz doesn't keep this deal going, well, Red's going to jail. And I think we saw the man from the DC Bureau come back into the play today, and he basically wants to shut down the task force and take Red in.
Yeah, he's done playing games because she has put in a resignation, and he's kind of chomping at the bit to move this thing through the system and get it done. He wants Liz out. He wants Reddington in whatever hole they're going to put Reddington in, and so we have that whole dynamic playing out throughout the episode, but it all kind of comes to a head. She tries to revoke her resignation, and they basically tell her it's too late. So she rushes off to go find Red because he's about to get arrested.
Yeah, and she basically is now switching over gears and saying, I have, a concern for you. I want to make sure that you're taken care of because they're going to put you in a hole and you're never going to come out of it. And so she wants to make sure that Red is taken care of because she wants answers. And the only person that can give her answers is Red.
Right. And again, another kind of touching scene, I guess, with Red and Liz in this park because, the FBI's coming. You can hear the sirens coming, and she's like, you got to get out of here. You got to go into hiding. We got to get you. And he ain't having it. He's like, basically, he tells her life's not worth living if she's not in it.
Yeah, he talks about this, once on an island, free diving, got stung by a lionfish, completely disorientated at death's door, and standing over me was this gypsy who nursed me back to health. And when we left, she kissed me, and it was like a burst of sunlight on my cheek. It made nearly dying worth it. That's how I feel right now.
And just because his beloved Lizzie had come to get him. But it leads to a very tense situation because SWAT shows up, FBI shows up, Red pulls out a gun. It's like, what is going on here? But he ends up, much like the way the series began, he ends up getting down on his knees, putting his hands above his head, and that's when we hear the airplane.
Yeah, almost exactly as the way the series started, because he even took off his hat. Yeah,
it was very reminiscent of how it all began. But then here comes the airplane that's supposedly carrying Berlin. It's been shot. The engine's been shot off. It's coming in for a crash landing, and it flies literally right over their heads.
Yeah, the question is how far away does it crash from the park that they're in? And then, of course, how long does it take to get to the crash site? Is Berlin going to get away?
Yeah, if I had to guess, if I was a betting man, I would bet that Berlin's going to get away.
Well, there are at least 42 television minutes next week, so they got to fill that somehow. Little police chase.
It'd be kind of a bummer if it just ends with Berlin dying in the plane crash. You'd be like, oh, okay.
Well, there's number 8.
Now what do we do?
Cross them off. Kind of a little anticlimactic, wouldn't it be?
I really enjoyed this particular episode. I like the dynamic between Liz and Red. I like the way Liz has taken control of their relationship, or at least thinks she's taken control of it. I really like the commanding Liz, the take charge Liz. I like it when when that side of the character is coming out. And I just like the way they tied the whole thing together. I like the whole thing with the virus and how it was being used. I thought the whole thing just worked really well tonight.
And the one thing that I really loved tonight was the entire kind of revelation that you got as Liz is going through like literally every case file, and she's calling Interpol and she's calling all of the agencies around the world, trying to piece this thing together. Now, I think we all kind of came to that realization when we were like, oh, Jolene is really Lucy Brooks, and he's basically using the Blacklist to get to Berlin. I think we kind of got to that point 3 episodes ago, but I think it was great that they added that into the show for anybody that may not have yet gotten there, to kind of put it all on the plate to say, look, this is what's really going on. He is basically using us as his army, if you will, in order to take down his worst enemy.
Right. And it was interesting listening to her put all the pieces together about how, got the code from this person to use it against that person to unlock this piece of information, which he was then able to do this. And it all makes cohesive sense. It really does.
And a great song that was playing in the background when Lizzie was going through that was by Frankel. That song is called Anonymity. So, I mean, when you think about it, that's exactly what Red wanted. He wanted anonymity from the situation, and he wanted someone else to do the dirty work for him. So what a great song choice.
Very much so. Very strong episode. I loved it. Can't wait for part 2.
Predictions for next week.
Boy, I wish I could say that I even had a clue where this was going to head. I think obviously Berlin is going to survive the crash, and obviously there's going to be some type of showdown. I would look for some type of a tremendous cliffhanger. Someone's going down. I don't know who it's going to be, and I'm not sure anybody will. It's going to be one of those, gunshot fade to black type things. That's my prediction.
So you're calling for the cliffhanger? Absolutely, sure, 100%.
In my mind, that's the way I see it playing out.
I think we're going to get the resolution to the story at about that, 42nd minute where the kind of the fourth commercial starts. We call it Act 3, if you will, between the fourth commercial and the fifth commercial. Mm-hmm. I think we get kind of a resolution kind of on season 1 and what was all in play. But then I think when we come back from that fifth commercial before the credits, that's where we kind of set up an entire new story, which becomes that cliffhanger.
Could be. We will find out. We'll all find out together, won't we?
We will, and that's why we want to hear your predictions and your theories via the TV Talk app by using the microphone there right in the center, because we want to know from all of you, of course, that we've now ascertained that Berlin is a he, but who will be beneath the hood? That's our talkback question this week. You can go ahead and answer that right inside the TV Talk app. You do need the TV Talk app to leave a response, so head on over to tvtalkapp.com to get the full TV Talk experience both on iOS and Android.
And while you're out there surfing around, don't forget you're going to head on over to Viggle.com/TV Talk for that special offer. And even if you listen to the show via the TV Talk app or something else, we want our community to grow. So leave us a 5-star written review on iTunes. It helps more people to discover our community and lets everyone know how much you love TV Talk and TV Talk The Blacklist.
The show's not done yet. Talkback clips, they're coming up next. Go deeper into the mystery of The Blacklist as we prepare for the season 1 finale next week with all the fans that are just like you. We'll talk at you next week. Until then, I'm Troy.
And I'm Dave, hoping this episode was like a burst of sunlight in your ears as Troy and I keep ourselves off of The Blacklist.
And now it's time for this week's Talkback Clips.
We hope you enjoyed this special version of The Blacklist Exposed, previously aired on the TV Talk Network and used with permission. Until next time, I'm Agent Troy Heinritz. That's at Troy Heinritz on Twitter. And if you want to learn more about me, just visit, about.me/Troy Heinritz.
And I'm Agent Aaron Peterson. You can hear me talking about movies and TV on the Hollywood Outsider podcast, as well as Remake This Movie Right. We are available at thehollywoodoutsiders.com or on Twitter at H_outsider. Be sure to subscribe, download the app, submit your feedback, but most importantly, keep yourself off of The Blacklist.
The Blacklist Exposed is a Golden Spiral Media production. Find more of our great podcasts at goldenspiralmedia.com/podcasts.